Welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to cover relative clauses, which are considered a kind of complex sentence. Do you remember these phrases? Well, I hope you do. So that is used to give extra information in a process, and these two are used to connect two different changes together. So these bold words are relative pronouns, and by using these phrases, you're actually creating relative clauses. Just to quickly go over the basics, relative clauses can be split into two types. The first is a defining relative clause, and this tells us who or what we're talking about. So when the subject is quite general, like here, the girl is quite general, then you need a defining relative clause to say who you're talking about. So the girl who is wearing the red dress is Sarah. The second one is a non-defining relative clause, and what this does is that it gives extra information about a subject and it needs a comma to separate the clauses. So for example, Meghan Markle, comma, who is American, is the extra information, is marrying Prince Harry. So relative pronouns are who, which is used to describe people, when to describe time, which and that to describe things, and where to describe places. And you really do have to make sure you master relative clauses because they're a very common kind of complex sentences, and it will serve you well in task 1 and task 2 as well. We will post exercises on Facebook and Instagram so you can practice defining and non-defining relative clauses. So make sure you head over to our pages. So when do you use relative clauses? Now, other than to join two changes together using after which and after that, or to give extra information in a process like so that, they're also used to comment on data. That's really important. They're used to comment on data, which means that you're using a non-defining relative clause. Not a defining one, a non-defining relative clause. And this is done by using the comparative and superative structures. And this gives you a super complex sentence because you've got a comparative structure within the relative clause. So using the chart that we did before in lesson 1 of this module about tenses, so it's about conducts, exports and turnover, and I wrote this model answer for you. So now I'm going to use paragraph 2 and 3 to comment on data so you can see how it's done. So for paragraph 2, I've decided to make 2 comments. The first one is here, as you can see. So in 2000, machinery had a turnover of almost £7 million, which was the most profitable. So machinery was the most profitable in 2000. As you can see, it's got much higher profits than these two, and that's the comment that I've decided to make using the superative. It was the most profitable. The other comment is here at the end. Plastics, on the other hand, fell to about £2.5 million, which meant it earned far less than the other two products. So plastics in 2010 is here, and it has earned a lot less profits, and that's what I said here, which meant it earned far less, and I'm using a modified comparative, far less than the other two products. There's another way you can comment on data without using a relative pronoun, and that's by doing it this way. So you can use this expression over here. This means that. And I've decided to add a comment using plastics, about plastics profitability. So as you can see, plastics profits has been going down from 2000, and it's projected to even fall further in 2020. So I decided to add this comment. This means that sales of plastics will likely become unprofitable compared to machinery and organic chemical. So these are the different ways you can comment on data. So you can use the relative pronoun followed by the superlative, like I've done here. You can use the relative pronoun which and meant, in like here in this case, using a modified comparative as well. Or you can simply use this means that to add another comment. So these are the three different ways you can comment on data, and it's not really rigid. You can use a comparative here instead, or you can use a superlative here as well. But just keep in mind that when you're using comparatives, try to be precise, so try to modify it if you need to. So let's compare the first version that I wrote in lesson 1 of this module to the second version that I just wrote now. So you can see there is a big difference between the two. So first of all, this is a lot longer than the first version, and that's one benefit of using relative clauses to comment on data. It gives you more words. So if you don't have 150 words, then think of where you can add comments to the data. Now the second thing is that it's more detailed and it's adding to the variety of structures that you have, and like I said, you do need to do that to get a band 7. But don't overuse relative clauses. Do not try to make a comment in every single sentence, because that just creates a repetition and that will reduce your band. So try to comment on data once, maximum twice per paragraph only. Do not do more than that. So that brings us to the end of this lesson. I'm now going to summarize what we've learned in this lesson and the previous lessons to do with complex sentences. Now, to get even a band 6, you need to show that you've used 1 to 2 different complex sentences. And to get even higher than that, you have to show a variety of complex sentences. So in the previous lessons, we've learned how you can give extra information using these, which give you complex sentences, how to join two or three different changes together using these, how to compare data using comparatives and superlatives, as well as subordinating conjunctions, and how to comment on data using these. So as you can see, you've got such a variety of complex structures here, and when you're writing a complex sentence, I don't really want you to write one for the sake of it. I want you to think of the purpose you're writing it for. So why are you writing that complex sentence? So if you think of it this way, you need to give an extra information, or you need to join different changes together, or you need to compare data or comment on data. So if you think of it in terms of purpose, that will make it easier for you to write complex sentences, rather than thinking, oh, I need to use a comparative or I have to use relative clauses. So think of it that way instead. I also have to highlight that not every single sentence you write has to be complex. You need some simple and compound sentences too. So try to use 1 to 2 simple and compound sentences in your report. Lastly, don't trade accuracy for variety. If you don't feel confident in a specific kind of complex sentence, then don't use it until you are confident in it. Because if you write a complex sentence that's not accurate, then you're not really doing yourself any favor, because what that does is that it will lower your band because of that mistake. So make sure you only use complex sentences that you have mastered and you're confident in using. So that's the end of this lesson, and I will see you in the next one.